Good afternoon. The project is in Brooklyn at Kingsborough Houses, a New York City Housing Authority or NYCHA residential complex. And we're here today to visit the frieze by sculptor Richmond Barthe. And we're going to be joined by Corey Serrant from Swann Galleries to learn a little bit about the artist and about this work. Thanks for joining us. Looking forward to learning about and, of course, sharing more about Barthe and his work with Corey today. Let's go ahead and invite him in now. Hi, Corey.
Hi, Christiana. How are you?
Great. I'm jealous that you get to be inside, but I'm glad to have the chance to visit the frieze for the first time for myself in person.
Yeah, it looks amazing in the snow. It's so beautiful.
So I'm going to say let's get right to it. I would love for you to just tell me if you want me to walk to any particular section of the artwork, but if you wouldn't mind just sharing with everyone who's tuning in a little bit about Barthe and his oeuvre, and of course this work in particular. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, of course. It's my pleasure. So Richmond Barthe was born in January 28th, 1901, and he was born in Mississippi in Bay St. Louis. So his life is very amazing since he was born at the turn of the 20th century, and he was born into a very Creole, in a very Creole culture.
Mm-hmm.
So that added to his cultural identity of his upbringing, being that they were separated and distinguished from other African Americans by the color of his skin. The Creoles of that region of the country have their own identity and so on forth. Richmond Barthe had his own identity as an artist. When he moved from Bay St. Louis to the heart of New Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
he really got a culture shock. And so by that, he was no longer looked at as a Creole. He was an African American.
Interesting.
So
And how
after
old was he at that time when he moved to New Orleans?
he was a teenager.
Okay.
He had finished his high school studies and he started working with a family as a house servant.
Mm-hmm.
And from there he received a gift from his owners, and it was a painting set, and that just completely set him off. And so his first oil painting, a copy of one of the old masters, he donated to a Roman Catholic church. He was a very devout Roman Catholic. And so the prior of that church actually believed in his skills and ability and raised the funds for Barthe's first semester at the School of the Arts Institute of Chicago.
Oh.
So from there, he moved to Chicago and studied in this amazing institution. And while he was taking night classes and attending the school as a part-time student, he took a sculpture class. And from there, it instilled in him his love of sculpture, the materiality of the 3D objects, learning to create and learning to really just express himself through this medium of sculpture. That was his sort of turning point in his life and his career as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this sort of eye-opening opportunity. And along the way, he got the most amazing help. He was supported. He had patrons. He was supported by Alain Locke and Langston Hughes and all of these Harlem Renaissance revolutionaries and thinkers and philosophers. They really supported his artistic growth. To create.
Is this before he himself is in New York City, or does he establish?
Yes, this is all all of these connections are made prior to moving to New York.
Okay.
Once he moves to New York, his career just takes off. It's really phenomenal. He was one of the first African American artists to have a solo gallery show in New York.
Oh.
One of his sculptures was the first sculpture from an African American artist to be included in the art collection of the Whitney Museum of American Art.
Oh.
And so he was really just a trailblazer in his entire practice.
Mm-hmm.
He really just like wanted to portray his devout Roman Catholicism, his ideals of portraying the Black body in sculpture in 3D format. Really,
and we
just
see that come into play here with this work, correct? With this.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, you definitely do. So the full title is Green Pastures, The Walls of Jericho. It's an 8 by 80-foot frieze altogether. So it is 2 carved panels. Each carved panel is 8 by 40 feet. And it's located in the Kingsborough Houses in Brooklyn, New York. So if you just take the A train to Utica and walk south about 3-4 blocks, it's on Michael Griffith Street between Rochester and Buffalo Avenues. And so the Walls of Jericho was a frieze that came out of a WPA commission for the Harlem River Houses. And so the Harlem River Houses were intended to be the first African-American federal public housing ever. They were built from 1936 to 1937. And the wall that Richmond Barthe was commissioned to create was originally meant for an amphitheater.
Oh.
And so it was supposed to be an amphitheater in which African Americans who lived in this housing project were to produce live theater, dance, music, and really just indulge themselves in the arts. And so the 2 panels, the first one on the left being Exodus and on the right Dance, is a sort of homage to the dualities of the African American experience. Exodus referring to the joys and the pain of the African American experience, while Dance celebrating the joy and the passion and the history and the pageantry of the Black experience. And so that was intended for this amphitheater. So the wall itself was inspired by Mark Connolly's play The Green Pastures, which portrayed episodes from the Old Testament through the eyes of an African-American girl. At the time the play was released, African-American intellectuals, cultural critics, and audiences were more critical of Connolly's claim to be presenting an authentic view of Black religious thought, also relating to the fact that Barthe is a devout Roman Catholic. The play portrayed episodes from the Old Testament as seen through the eyes of this young African-American child during the Great Depression in the South. And so Exodus and Dance are both Barthe's first work in bas-relief figures. The 2 panels are of identical size and they mirror each other. Christiane, if you'd like, you can step back to give a sort of panoramic view.
Give me a minute because I'm navigating snow and I have to go
absolutely.
slow.
Take your time.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Start in the center. So to the left
Yes.
is Exodus.
Yes. And so the panels gradually rise from 5 feet in the center to 8 feet at the opposing ends. The figures are a sort of amalgamation of an Art Deco style with influences from African art that Richmond Barthe would have seen during his time. And they're also influenced by reliefs from the Apadana at Persepolis at the northern staircase. They're these sort of flat, 2-dimensional figures that are sort of profile views that you would have seen throughout ancient Persepolis, ancient Egypt, and that sort of style that they are very much known for. So Exodus is interpreted to be, of course, the exodus of the Israelites from their flight of Egypt, but they also symbolize the exodus of the Great Migration of African Americans leaving the South after the end of Reconstruction, moving to the northern cities for a better chance at life and a sort of hope. So the figure that you see on the far left of Exodus is symbols of a Moses figure, a sort of leader of the people.
Yep.
And it's interpreted that the figures in Exodus symbolize all of the civil rights era African American leaders who never got to see civil rights occur and the sort of equality and equity of African Americans. And so, if you want, you can move over to the panel titled Dance.
Pardon the noise, there's a snow plow coming by.
Oh, don't worry. Thank you. So the figures in dance are very much figures in motion. They are emulating a sort of a traditional West African dance. So the figures in the center are male dancers and they are flanked by female dancers. The dancers are very joyous. They still have a sort of movement to them. They are very beautiful and very reminiscent of the figures that Aaron Douglas would have used in his lithograph. Aaron Douglas being one of Richmond Barthe's very close friends. And also, the figures are very beautiful. The movement in them still holds a lot of energy.
And understanding that this was meant initially for an amphitheater that of course would require something very large. Did Barthe work on this scale after this piece? Is it rare for him to work on this scale, or was this typical for him?
Oh, absolutely. It was very much rare for him. He worked in a small studio in Greenwich Village. The largest work that I have ever come across is about 4 to 5 feet. Not even. It's very small.
Yeah.
So to have a 5 to 8 figure, a 5 to 8 by 80 feet sculpture, it's very huge. It's what he always wanted and hoped for as a sculptor.
Okay.
It is something that is unprecedented. It was commissioned under the WPA, but it was commissioned also the New York Photo Arts Project as well. And at the time, only 6% of African American artists claim New York City Federal Arts Project funds. So this was rare for him as well as an African American, but also rare for him as a sculptor, as an African American sculptor in the time period, to attain such a commission on this scale. It was commissioned under the Treasury Relief Art Project, and he worked with a few of his other peers as well. And so it was, as you said before, it was supposed to be a part of this amphitheater, but the Treasury Relief Art Project and the WPA decided not to place this at the Harlem Riverside Apartments, and so they decided to move it to Kingsborough in Brooklyn.
Right.
So it sort of fell under disrepair because Barthe did not intend for this site. And so he did not forget about it, but it wasn't his favorite project, his favorite commission that he worked on, his favorite sculpting. So this is one of the reasons why it fell into disrepair, along with NYCHA being over budget and under budget. And I mean, January 28th was Richmond Barthe's the anniversary of his 100th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So it shows that this piece has aged
Yeah.
and not aged well.
Well, but it's obvious, it's wonderful, wonderful news. As you were mentioning, we just passed the anniversary of Barthé's birth, and there was an announcement that the work will be restored and conserved by, I believe, a coalition, including Fulton Art Fair, Weeksville Heritage Center, NYCHA, of course, and other entities. And so it's really incredible to hear that there's recognition, even though we fully understand that with respect to budgeting and things like that, NYCHA has so many real life or very real priorities in terms of the safety and comfort of its residents. So we understand that those kinds of concerns are paramount, but we're also so glad to see there's an opportunity to find ways to prioritize this with the right entities involved as well. So it's exciting to see that soon, hopefully, this will be shining all the more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the restoration is amazing, especially just doing my own research in the specificity of the site, Weeksville, Brooklyn. I had no idea myself that James Meeks purchased the land, and it was known as the first independent Black community in pre-Civil War America.
Mm-hmm.
So that's absolutely amazing. And I think with it being placed in Weeksville, it just brings a new layer of symbolism to the sculptor, to the sculpting, to the sculpture itself, to the community.
It's so beautiful. Yes, yes, yes. I'll defer to you, Corey. We can wrap it here if you think that you've kind of done your overview, or if there's anything else that you think is interesting and important to share with our viewers, do let me know.
Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much for giving me this time and the opportunity to speak about this work. I am very humbled that you chose me, and I'm very thankful that the work is being restored. And I hope it brings joy and a lot of happiness to the community that live with it on the day-to-day.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. So just looking very quickly in the comments, just do want to encourage people to visit the entry for the Richmond Barthe frieze on the NYC LGBT Historic Sites Project website. You'll see that he is included on the site because in addition to being the most significant sculptor of African descent in the 20th century. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry. He was a gay man, and our mission is to recognize the contributions of LGBT individuals to American art and culture, and this is certainly rises to that standard times 10. So we're so grateful to everyone who's contributed to our knowledge about this work, and we'll be watching to see as it is restored. All right, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Corey. I'm gonna go inside where it's warm.
My pleasure. Yes, stay warm. Thank you, everyone, for your time and patience. Take care.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bye.
Bye.